Hello, everybody. Once again, we are meeting to continue the discussion on reward management. And yesterday, we were trying to, in the last class, we were trying to examine, the importance of reward and what actually influences in the form of laying out the policies of the reward, etc. Then in today's session, we will try to see uh, how the organizations strategically need to position their reward policies. In the last session, uh, we had observed that rewards in the form of return on investment or salary or wages or perks, whatever we may term it as, proved to be quite important psychologically and emotionally to the employee. In that context, if and when employees are not satisfied, the possibility is high that the employees will turn away from the organization. Now, in order to avoid that, we say that the organization should have a comprehensive policy. The processes should be in place, the procedures should be intact, and there should need to be a very systematic. The entire organization should function as a system, as a holistic system when it comes to reward management. So now we will try to examine, okay, how to position our reward policies in a strategic manner so that our employees will stay with us. That is, our employee turnover is low, no attrition levels or less attrition levels on the one hand. Then employees are satisfied of the type of rewards that we are offering to them, and it is also in the beneficial to the organization. So this is where we will look at what is and how this entire procedure should take place. So strategic reward management is about the development and implementation of reward strategies and guiding the principles that underlie them. Right? And we ask some fundamental questions in this process, that what is the reward policy of the organization, and what is the goal of the organization, and where do we want to go, how do we see ourselves in the near future, and how do we intend to go over there. These are the basic questions any strategy will be posing, and applied to reward management also the same thing happens over here. So where do we want our reward practices to be, how do we want them, and how do we intend to get there. Okay, a little bit of explanation over here in terms of what the reward strategy is. It's a declaration of intent. That is, basically it is clarifying the intent of the management, which means to develop, implement the reward policies, practices, and further the achievement to its business goals and meet the needs of the employees. Right? And so this is how it is. Like what we were just trying to say, that if you want to have a very strong reward policy and implement it very effectively, and see to it that the business goals are all achieved or enhanced and the employees are satisfied. It also provides a sense of purpose and direction. These policies and practices also will sort of identify and reiterate the pathways in which the organization or the management is actually moving about, right? And it's also forms a base for understanding and satisfaction. This we have already identified. Now, the priorities, which means that all those aspects which needs to be in place when we are speaking about a reward strategy. So the first one is, of course, obviously, you know, if we go the uh, from bottom to up, the first thing is there should be some amount of ensuring internal equity. So, we need to see that equity in the form of balance. Balance of what? Balance of the salaries that we are actually offering to the employees, and see to it that, we are paying according to the competitive markets, and people are satisfied in the process, and we are anyway one step ahead of our competitors. That's how we will say. So internally, we are very strong that, and people know that we are paying more than the market rates. And even within the organization, for at every different level, or for some scarce potentialities, or certain types of unique potentialities, etc., they are all rewarded suitably. So that is one thing which we will ensure in the form of balance, of the employees in the process. Then the next step is, managing the pay costs. So we need to see that, the return on investment, the cost, like in our last session itself, we were saying, how do we look at the cost of the job as to the organization, and the return on the investment in terms of contribution of the employee to the organization. So this balance is what we will start looking at. So uh, what are the inflows and what are the outflows in the organization, and how do we actually assess the profits, the productivity, the performance levels of the employees, and see to it that there is a surplus everywhere. Okay. Maintain market competitiveness. Okay, so as I told you, we should always be paying according to the market rates, or according to the competitors that we have already agreed. Link pay to the market. Yes, the linking we will anyway be doing, and we will pay more than what the going rate is. Recruit and retain high performers in that. So we should always be looking at people who are either skilled, they have unique potentialities, or sometimes they have rare, scarce skills, which only our organization might be having, etc. So these type of employees need to be recruited very strategically, and we also need to retain them. To retain them, we need to have a differential pay structure for them, obviously, so that they definitely know that the organization values and recognizes the extra potentialities which they possess. Right? Then, reward high performance. It's not only that we honor people with rare or scarce resources, we also try to honor high performing individuals. So wherever there is merit, wherever there are people who achieve more, who contribute more to the organization, definitely we see to it that they are all suitably rewarded in the process. And whatever we do is actually, we are trying to realize the business goals of the organization. Right? So starting from the internal parity which we try to look at, and the type of an internal equality which we are trying to build, to how we actually achieve the business goals. So each aspect, if you take, needs to be given equal importance, priority, and handled with care and sensitivity, so that each one is done very effectively, without any issues, without without our employees raising a finger or complaining about it. So if these aspects individually are put in place, I can say that probably to some extent we are in the right direction towards having a strategic reward management policy in our organization. So here we have, what are all those components which get into it? A little more clarity. As HR managers, okay, you need to understand how exactly this entire process also works. So first thing is, have clearly defined goals, business objectives. Then this we have already observed. That it could be in the form of raising the revenues, raising the profits, raising the market share by a few percentages, etc. Some sort of clarity in the business objectives is very important. Then well-designed pay and reward programs tailored to the needs of the organization and its people, and consistent and integrated with one another. So the pay and reward programs in the organization, and then definitely should be such that they take care of all the employees, and they are bringing everybody together. They are bringing people together. Then of course all the processes needs to be in place. There are two sort of strategies and initiatives which we can talk about. So one is what we call as a Broadbridge reward strategy. Okay? It may commit the organization to the pursuit of a total rewards policy, and the basic aim is to achieve an appropriate balance between financial and non-financial rewards. It's quite broad based, and it is trying to talk in terms of having a very comprehensive reward policy for the organization, and balancing between financial and non-financial rewards. Then selection of the reward incentives or initiatives and the priorities attached to them will be based on the analysis of the present circumstances and an assessment of the needs of the business and its employees. So how do we select what type of incentives we need to give to the employees, and who should be given, what should be prioritized first? We can take the immediate circumstances, the context, the needs of the business, what are the broad business goals, etc. All this we can take together and then come to a conclusion. Like for example, the replacement of the present methods of contingent pay with contribution scheme, new grade pay structures, etc. So these are the aspects where small changes are being brought about. Any strategy, any reward strategy, because we already identified that we need procedures, we need policies, we need processes to be in place, etc. But for a strategy to be in place, okay, particularly the reward strategy to be in place, what are the steps which needs to be there? So the first thing is the diagnostic stage. So the phase 1, that is the diagnosis. Then the phase 2 is the design part, execution and the evaluation part. Right? Any procedure, any process usually also takes place in this. So let's take a slightly detailed look at it. Okay? So what is this diagnosis stage? So in this diagnosis stage, the project team evaluates the company's current total reward systems and ideas for improving. So it includes, how does it go about? Right? How does it go about? It can have focus groups discussions. It can have some industry benchmark surveys, then current reward strategies and employees' attitudes, then the reviewing the literature and creating a document. So in the diagnostic stage, basically, it is talking to the employees. It could be in the form of interviews, it could be in the form of focus group discussions. Then it will also include a market survey where we will also get some information from our competitors, or from our other organizations, where what are their pay structures, etc., or organizations whom we consider as our benchmarks, etc., and then try to look at how much are they paying, etc. Consolidate all the information and come out with a report. That is diagnostic stage. Second stage is identifying which employee and organizational attributes to reward and which types of rewards to offer. So the full range of reward strategies will include compensation, benefits, professional development, and the work environment. So in the design stages, we'll start having some sort of an idea as to what are all those aspects that we will, what are the types of, like what we said in the earlier discussion also, that salary plus perks, right? So base salary will always be there, plus benefits, plus perks, plus commissions, and any types of professional development opportunities, career development opportunities which are being provided, and any enhancements in the work environment, context, etc. So which one are we going to focus upon, etc., is what, and how much do we give importance to what position, which of these aspects needs to be given importance, etc. That's where the design part of it comes about. So here, we can simply apply the Maslow's theory. So as people move higher in the career ladder, they will be more interested in the non-financial rewards rather than the monetary rewards. So the perks, the work environment, the awards, recognitions, symbols, titles go a long way, in the senior cadres, and money, commissions, pay, commissions, bonuses, monetary rewards, etc., play an important role at the first levels in the organization. So accordingly, the design of the compensation structure also can go along. So this is where compensation will consist of pay grades. Then we can define the pay grades. In addition to defining this, we can have pay ranges, then pay levels in terms of skill-based pay and broadband. So of late, particularly when we are trying to determine what could be the base structure or what could be the salary structure, how to grade them, how to grade each, etc., the usual factors which are taken into consideration are the skill, responsibility, and effort which goes into the job. Okay? So some sort of metrics are being accorded to that, and accordingly the pay grades and pay levels are being. We'll have a little more to talk about it. So a skill-based pay, okay, skill-based pay levels, it is based on jobs qualifications rather than qualifications plus a description. So it enables a company to reward employees for performing multiple tasks in one role rather than just those indicated in a job description. It's obvious that, in one particular position in which the individual is, he displays, his amount of dexterity or skill to the optimum level, as plus, the multiple tasks which he can actually execute by occupying that position in a multi-skilled way. That is where the skill-based pay comes about, or we can apply the skill-based pay in that context. Whereas broadbanding, it sets very large pay ranges. So it has a maximum of about, the pay range usually has a maximum that is roughly about 40% above the minimum. And, it gives organizations maximum flexibility in assigning pay levels to jobs. So in a broadband, there can be several, structures which can get included. So classifying and identifying or, sorting the jobs into that broadbanding categories becomes easy for the HR managers, so to say. Then organizations can provide pay increases to this we all know. Either it is a merit increase or a promotion pay increase. So whenever an individual is showing merit, definitely we would like to reward the employee by increased pay structure or some sort of a monetary reward or compensation, etc. Or whenever the individual is due for a promotion and moves to the higher level, obviously the difficulty levels will be different, and higher responsibilities, challenges, etc. So automatically pay also increases. This we are quite familiar with. Then we also have, again, different types of incentive strategies or categories which can be presented based on individual performance, then group performance, and organizational performance, etc. So you can also have, incentives for sales people at the individual level. We can have, for example, for the sales people, which is more related with work. So the output and commissions exactly relate to that. And this is actually quite individualistic, and each individual will be working towards their goals or targets which they are given for, and accordingly get the bonuses or the commissions. So we can also have a group performances. The examples could be in the form of gain sharing, or goal sharing, etc. Team-based performance, where a group of people will be working on a particular project, and upon completion, the whatever the shares, the whatever the gains, they will be distributing, and they will be getting a portion of. So definitely, it yields better results. But sometimes the problem comes as to assess each individual's optimum levels of performance. Sometimes might become difficult. You can also have the organizational performances, where usually this happens in the form of profit sharing or employee stock options, etc. Wherein when the organization's performance levels are high, at the time of placement itself, each employee is given stock options. So automatically, every individual will be working towards their stocks, working so that the productivity levels will be high. If the productivity levels are high, automatically the stock options also will be high. Then we also have another category of rewarding the employee through benefits. Benefits will take different, employee benefits take different forms, like healthcare, insurance, constant, a large proportion of total reward costs, etc. Right? And these benefits are basically sometimes they attract the employees for continuing in the organization, and they motivate the employee also wishes. And we also have for personal and professional development in the form of training, or training and career development opportunities that are being provided. And sometimes the performance needs to be improved, and performance management, sometimes behavior modification aspects also take place. And these experiences actually contribute a lot so that the employee values whatever the organization is providing for them. The work environment in which actually the individual works, in the form of job design, recognition, the work-life balance, everything gets included in this. Now, if you look at this, it begins with the compensation, then benefits, then professional and personal development, and the work environment, right? And you have, which will result in the pay levels, pay increases, incentives, job design, recognition, work-life balance. And you have all, from the organization's point of view, it can be in the form of skill-based, broadbanding, merit pay, promotion pay, individual, group, organizations. This is how the entire design of it happens in the organization and in the context of the work environment service. Then when it comes to the execution part, definitely, earlier we used to think, that only a section of the organization are eligible for either bonus or incentives or profit sharing or whatever. Okay. Now, today, we have different types of policies wherein all the employees in some form or the other get included in their pay structures, or in their or in the gain sharing plans of the organization, etc. So we need a lot of top management support for this, and in the implementation of it, and the top managers must show a favorable attitude, towards all their employees, and only then this can be successful, we can say. Then the measurement part of it is, we can always include uh, whether which rewards to offer to which organization, whether employees have met the criteria for receiving each reward. Right. So these criteria will include individual productivity or customer service, group or company profitability, etc. And so then, a decision can be made whether this particular reward can be implemented to this group or not. Once we have designed, we have implemented it, then we should also try to see the evaluation part. So have we done the right thing? Have we implemented it correctly? We can always go for the evaluation part. So here what do? We actually measure the outcomes. Okay, so which outcomes of the total reward systems to measure for this? So we can go back to the objectives of the organization and then see whether the objectives of the organization, the business plans, the business targets or goals have been met or no. I mean, we have been rewarding the employees in this category or in this way. When we are rewarding and we are expecting them to perform, has it fulfilled our goal, right? So, and that is one. And has it resulted in satisfying the employees? So two aspects we will take into consideration. Are the business goals achieved? Are the employees satisfied at the end of the day? So we have the various types of outcomes which we can always look at in the form of productivity surveys, job satisfaction, then cost, profits, fit with organization strategic plan, employee complaints, recruitment, retentions. Okay, all these aspects can get into when we look at the outcomes in the form of it. Then we can always look at what our results are showing in terms of whether there is a gap between what we were expecting and what is actually implemented. And if so, then we have to look at where is it that where the steps have not been implemented correctly. Some sort of corrective measures or behavior modification measures need to be applied in that context. Periodically, if we start doing this exercise, it definitely helps us a lot in reviewing our own strategies, so to say. So in conclusion, we will say that successfully implementing a strategy will always be challenging, but the effort is worth it. So a well thought out and skillfully implemented reward program can give organization a competitive edge. In particular, it helps for the business outcomes, and in this competitive era, a well-designed total reward systems can provide a lot of satisfaction to the employees.